So once you get to the basic steps of a functional game, the next step was get your friends and family to play the game, or did you get into beta testing, or what was the next step once you've got the basics sort of down and the game is functional?
Everyone's going to say you need to start testing early. You need to test constantly. You need to test every step of the way. You need to listen to the feedback. You need to watch the players play the game. And I couldn't agree more. For me, the process went something like this. I developed the game. I got it to a point where I thought maybe I could give this to another developer and let him test it. So my first developer was Dan, and he was into Game Maker at the time. I think he stopped. And I sent it to him. He played the game. It was 5 levels. He beat it. And he said, well, pretty cool. It's about the level of a Flash game.
Yep.
I was like, ooh, that hurts, but that's probably right. So
nothing wrong with the Flash game.
Yeah.
Actually, I just saw a YouTube clip the other day by Nakey Jakey. Have you ever seen that YouTube channel?
No.
Pretty good. Recommend it. Anyway, he made a video about why Flash games are overlooked as being significant contributors to game culture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In any case, Flash game, not necessarily a bad thing, especially on mobile.
So I started with Flash game, and I worked a year to upgrade myself. So then, just over a year ago, for my birthday party, I did my first beta test. It's kind of the unveiling of my game. And I got it was kind of a safe environment, right? Because it's all my friends.
Yep.
So all my friends came, and I sat and watched them play the game. Each person, I'd install the game on their phone, and I'd watch them play it.
Yep.
And the very first thing that I learned was what I talked about earlier, is that nobody understood how the hell to play my game.
You learned so much through that process. I've hosted a couple beta testing events for previous employers that I worked at, and I noticed the same thing. I would show them a beta version of a game, and I just observe. You don't say anything. You don't give them any guidance, any idea of what they should be doing. They just do what they think they should do. And it was a frustrating process because you're watching them and you're like, no, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing it this way. But they don't know that, The things which seem logical and straightforward to you are not logical and straightforward to other people because you have the context of knowing how the game should work and they don't. And that disconnect can be really damaging.
Yeah. So actually, I tried to not tell people. The first 1 or 2 testers, I didn't tell them. And they just got frustrated within 5 minutes and quit. So the next couple beta testers that same day, I sat there and I explained all the mechanics and I explained the whole game, which you're not supposed to do, but I just wanted to see how a player would play if they understood the game. And then I noticed those players had a lot of fun. And that was probably the first big piece of encouragement that I got from my players, was seeing them have fun once they understood the game. So from my first closed beta, or you might call it an alpha test even, what I learned was, you need to teach the players how to play the game in a way that's fun. But once they get there, the game is fun. And I learned that. And that was probably the thing that really kept me going for the next year. That was a year ago. So I spent the whole next year taking every single thing that confused those beta testers and making it obvious in the game, either by designing a level that teaches it to you or adding some UI elements that make it very obvious on screen. So the second beta test, which has been a bit more of an open beta test, I've just been kind of broadcasting on Reddit, Facebook, our gaming group on WeChat, and just finding all kinds of testers on iOS and Android. And I've got about 50 testers. And this test, the game is supposed to be finished. It's just about all the work that I'm going to put into this game. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, the testers got it. I don't have to sit there and explain it to them. I was really encouraged by some of the testers are fanatical about the game. I've got a number of testers who not only beat every single level, but they spent time to... Each level has you can go back and play for objectives. Mm-hmm. And they would go through and they would beat every single objective and every single part of the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's encouraging.
And then they would send me books worth of feedback. So I got into a program. It lasted about 2 or 3 weeks where every morning I wake up, check my email. All the beta testers have given me their comments and add this or this confused me or this ship got stuck here. And then I would fix all those things and I would push an update out that evening. And then the next morning I'd wake up to a whole new set of emails. And I've been doing that for about 3 weeks.
Wow, these are really ideal beta testers then.
They are fantastic, man. And they are a big part of the game's development. I had no idea that just random people playing my game would become so involved.
How did you find these 50 people? Some of them are friends like me and other people in the CGF group who know you personally and are helping. That's not everybody though, right?
It's kind of like friends and friends of friends. You know, the first one I did on my birthday was my friends. And this one is more just like anyone, I shout and anyone that can hear me can be a beta tester.
Right.
It's not really closed. So some of them are on Reddit, some of them are from different social media groups and just things like that.
Got it. Have you noticed any big differences in Android versus iOS deployment? Because you're on both of those platforms, right?
Yeah, my iOS game works great. And I'm going to submit to the App Store on Friday because I'm just confident it's good to go.
Wow.
The Android version keeps crashing.
Yep.
So that's something I'm going to have to deal with. It's hard because I just don't own an Android phone. So I'm going to borrow or buy one, try to fix it.
That's a good idea. I think that's pretty important for development purposes.
Yeah. So what I think I'm going to do is this Friday, which is tomorrow, I'm going to submit for App Store publication, and I'm going to submit for the Google Play open beta, which means that anyone can download my game and play it. And it's probably going to be discounted, but because it's a beta, it's understood that the game is still in development and has some problems. And I'm going to try to iron out the whatever the bug is that's making it crash on Android through the open beta testing.
Android is a lot more difficult because you're dealing with so many different variations in hardware, resolution. Android is just a huge discrepancy between different devices, literally thousands of different Android devices. Whereas with iPhone, it has become much more fragmented in recent years. You're dealing with a lot of different resolutions, aspect ratios, devices, going all the way back to, I think the iPhone 6 is the oldest one, which is still updated and supported by Apple officially. But so there is more fragmentation there, but not even close to comparable to Android. You're just working with so many different devices. And unfortunately, some people will just have older Android devices, which might not be compatible with games which have already gone through extensive testing.
Yeah, I can tell you on the back end that the developer console for both, the App Store and for Google Play, the App Store is just hard to set up in the beginning. You have to do this thing with the license keys and your distribution certificates. And you have to pay $100 every year to be an Apple developer. But once you get it going, it's really nice. You push a deployment through test flight and it just updates on everybody's phones. I have a list where I could see exactly how much people are playing and what version of my game they have installed. Meanwhile, on the Google Play Store, it was kind of easier to get started. It's $25 one-time lifetime Google developer fee, which is great. And once you upload it, you can't really see like who's playing it or how much, at least in the beta phase. On Google Play, it's actually called alpha. Beta is when it's open. In the alpha phase, you can't really see who's playing it or how much. One cool thing that you do get on the Google Play developer console is you get these crash reports. So I do get, the only reports I can see is when it crashes. I get just this whole list of code and I can try to figure out why it crashed.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's useful. So now you're getting ready to submit the game on iOS, and presumably once you get these bugs ironed out, then you'll submit it on Android as well. What does it look like as you launch this game? Are you looking at a launch date? Are you going to promote it? How do you feel about marketing the game? This is surely one of the biggest challenges which you're going to face in this whole process.
Yeah, I used to work for a publishing company, a game publishing company. And prior to working for a game publishing company, I had no idea that game publishing is its own industry, separate from game development. But it really is. Just with this game, I have to develop the icon, the screenshots, the preview video, the description text, and these are just the prerequisites to get on the store in the first place. And they're not just boxes to tick. Everything from the icon to the screenshots, etc., are the determining factors on whether or not people download your game.
Crucial.
So you have to spend a lot of time making a good icon, getting good screenshots, doing a good video. And these are full-time jobs that usually are outsourced. So as an indie developer, you might think you're finished with your game and still have months of work ahead of you just developing all of your marketing materials.
Right. Not to mention getting in touch with publications, YouTubers, all sorts of different influencers online to try to get eyes onto the game, get people onto the page, whether it's on the App Store or on Google Play.
Right. So the next thing you have to do after you assemble all of your publication assets for both, and I'm talking mobile here, for both the App Store and Google Play, and of course they're different. They require different things. The next thing you have to do is assemble a press kit, and then maybe a list of all the influencers you're going to try to reach out to, whether they be YouTubers or Twitch streamers or blog writers, and get that press kit out there and try to get in touch with them and try to get people to cover your game. Because once it's on the App Store or the Google Play Store, it's right next to like a gazillion other games.
Yep.
And
how many games is it that launch per day? It's something like 5,000 or something.
It's huge. It's, I have a few things going for my game that I think might help me stand out, but really it's a shot in the dark. You don't know if your year of work is going to, I don't even know if I'm going to make that $1. Right.
You'll make the $1, I'm certain. But yeah, you're right. You have no clue. I mean, it's hard to call this. I mean, unless you're working with, a professional publisher, like you say. I mean, if you can, like Devolver Digital, for example, it's like one of the biggest independent game developer or publishers in the world. If you have an independent game which is published by them, guaranteed to be hundreds of thousands of downloads. So if you work with a professional publisher, then, that is an option. But I would say like a tiny, tiny fraction of independent games will have that kind of outcome.
Well, my game has a few things going for it, which make me hopeful that it will do at least a little well. One of them is the Yo-Yo Game Showcase, the Game Maker Showcase. I have not seen another strategy game in there. So I think my game will make a great addition to their showcase.
Yeah.
Another thing I have going for my game is that it's a single player offline RTS strategy game. Now I know that's a niche and a lot of people are playing multiplayer games, but if you want to play a strategy game offline because you're on the airplane or you just don't want to play against other people, there's not a lot of options. Are you familiar with any?
No.
On mobile?
Nothing comes to mind.
So my game ticks a few of these kind of strange boxes. There's not a lot of other games like it.
I think there's a short list of offline strategy games just to begin with.
Right.
But I really like those. I really like offline strategy games.
Can you name any of them?
Yeah, one I'm playing recently is called Pixel Dungeon, which was actually recommended in the CGF group. It's a fantastic game. There's a paid upgrade to remove ads, but otherwise it's free.
Cool. Is that on mobile or PC?
It's on mobile.
Okay.
It's on iPhone and Android. I mean, if you look on PC, there's a much larger selection of offline strategy games.
Yeah, there's one that just came out that's a little bit similar to my game, that it's a turn-based offline strategy game, Into the Void.
That's right. Oh, you mean Into the Breach?
Into the Breach, sorry.
Yeah.
Into the Breach.
Into the Breach is brilliant. Is one of the best games of 2018, in my opinion. FTL, also one of the best strategy games. Yeah, these are good examples. These are offline strategy games. FTL is real-time, and Into the Breach is turn-based. Some of the best strategy games I've ever played. FTL has a great story behind it as well, developed by two guys in Beijing, China, who worked for 2K here in China, so they worked in commercial game development. They became disillusioned with corporate game development, so they quit their jobs, decided to work on an independent project, funded it on a Kickstarter successfully.
Nice.
Actually got like 5 times their requested funding amount. It made FTL, and it turned into a smash hit, which is not that common. A lot of Kickstarter projects, which are based around games, meet their funding goals, but then kind of peter out or just don't become that good or that successful. FTL, smashing success, led to the creation of their company, and they've achieved even, more with their follow-up game, Into the Breach.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet, but Into the Breach looks really cool.
Get it on your Switch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but for sure, that's a rare example. I mean, that's a very, very special case. So, but that's great to hear. I'm looking forward to checking out the game as it launches fully and seeing kind of what the post-launch experience is like. How do you feel about monetization of your game? Are you looking at ads or in-app purchases or an upfront cost?
I'm just going to stick to my principles and charge a modest price for the game. I hate in-app purchases. I know that they generate the most revenue, but I'm going to sell my game for $3. It's pretty cheap. You buy the game, it takes about 5 to 6 hours to beat it in easy mode. So I think you get your money's worth. Once you beat easy mode, you unlock hard mode. So you could say altogether, you get 10 hours of gameplay for $3.
That's a ton of content. That's a lot of content for a mobile game. I think the vast majority of mobile games, I feel like after I've played them for an hour, I'm kind of done with them.
Right. Yeah. So
there's going to be no ads. There's going to be no in-app purchases.
None of that.
You know, to have no in-app purchases is a really attractive feature. I'll say this. I mean, when we're talking about publishing a game and we just talked about creating the app icon, creating the description, the screenshots, the videos, all this stuff creates a general impression of how attractive the game is going to be to a prospective player. One of the big things which I look for is that it does not include in-app purchases. And it's actually pretty rare that I see that. It's pretty rare that you see a game which is for sale for an upfront cost, which does not include even a single in-app purchase. It's not that common. But when that is the case, I find that really satisfying. That really will push me to even buy a game upfront just because I want to feel like I'm getting everything that's available with this purchase and nothing is being held back.
Cool. Yeah, I do think some indie games are going that route. You know, going upstream and just selling their game for one price, no in-app purchase. You
know, I think a lot of the illusions around in-app purchases are starting to fall away just a little bit. And I think that's why we're starting to see that change. I think one of the dreams has been that, you know, if you sell your game and put in-app purchases in it, a stream of money will follow and everything will just kind of work out. But we've been far along this road enough for many developers to see that, well, it might not work out that way, because there have also been a lot of cases of failure of games which have pursued that monetization strategy. And now I think a lot of game developers accurately see that a more sustainable, practical way to deal with this problem is just to sell the game for a small upfront fee like you're doing.
So before we wrap up, let me just put a little plug in here. My game is called Carrier Commander War at Sea. It's available on iOS and Google Play soon. It is an indie strategy game. It is an offline naval strategy game set in a Cold War era. The game features head-to-head battles between carrier strike groups. It's kind of a hybrid of turn-based, where you're moving your ships, and live action, where you draw the flight path and then watch the battle happen for 5 seconds, and then you get your turn again. Another unique feature that I kind of borrowed from XCOM is something called the arms race, which also comes from the Cold War. And basically, your tech tree is a competitive tech tree. So you versus your opponents, and it lasts the whole game. So rather than like a lot of StarCraft kind of strategy games where you climb a tech tree within one round, and then the next round you start over, in this game, you have this kind of arms race where you're trying to out-research your opponent and get the best weapons by the end of the game so you can win the battles.
Nice. I have 2 questions before we wrap this up.
Yeah, sure.
One is, did you ever think to incorporate a multiplayer functionality in the game, like 2 carrier groups against each other?
Well, you know, that would be amazing. I would love to have done that, but that is just another level of development. I think Carrier Commander 2. If I sell 1 million copies of Carrier Commander, Carrier Commander 2 will definitely have multiplayer, 100%.
Maybe you could patch it in.
Yeah, or maybe if the game is doing well and I get a little revenue, what I would probably do is hire, you know, like a network kind of programmer guy to program that for me.
You could do an in-app purchase.
Yeah, or
that. If you don't want to do that, you could unlock a multiplayer mode. Anyway,
Sure.
It seems like a game which is conducive to multiplayer gameplay.
Right. Yeah. And if anybody wants... Oh, did you have a second question?
Yeah, my second question is, did it ever occur to you to set this in the South China Sea in a modern setting?
Yes, actually, there are some regulations in the App Store in particular about avoiding politically sensitive issues, but I did try to kind of tread that line. There's a couple different enemy countries in the game, One of them is a communist country that builds militarized islands in the sea.
Yeah, because when I play the game, I feel like, because in headlines right now is South China Sea, like naval confrontation, like conflict between the United States and Western countries and China. And that's one of the top, global news stories, which has been happening over the last year and a half, 2 years. And it seems like a naval game between aircraft carriers is, the most easy to connect, real world thing here is the South China Sea conflict.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I included militarized islands. Another kind of newsworthy feature I put into the game was it's set during a time of climate change where the oceans are rising and Pacific Island nations are losing their homeland. Mm-hmm. So in the game, you are a commander of this confederation of all the Pacific Island nations who, let's just say you'd be the Philippines. And you're trying to fight for some land against this authoritarian communist regime who is building islands and claiming parts of the sea.
Right.
But of course, there's no real countries in the game.
Sure.
They're all made up.
I see. That's kind of funny. Okay, well, that's one way you can navigate that. Great. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast. It was really interesting to hear about your journey publishing this game. I wish you luck in launching the game, and hopefully we'll get that multiplayer functionality one day.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great.
Hey, I have one more plug. My blog is fromgametobrain.blogspot.com. So if you'd like to follow the release of the game or just get in touch with me about your game or whatever, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.